We're live.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the February 13th, 2023 meeting of the University City Council to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Clay,
Present.
Councilmember Klein, Councilmember McMahon,
Here.
Councilmember Hales,
Here.
Councilmember Smotherson,
Here.
Mayor Crowe.
Here. Thank you very much. Before you have the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Ms. Klein? Nope. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Smotherson, seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We have no proclamations this evening. You have before you the minutes of the January 9th, 2023 study session minutes Stormwater Commission presentation. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Ms. Klein. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? And Councilmember Hales abstains. January 23rd, 2023 regular meeting minutes of the University City Council. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hales, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it with an abstention from Mr. McMahon. I will now turn over to Mr. Smotherson for some appointments.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. I'd like to nominate for reappointment Eleanor Mullen to the Arts and Letters Commission.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Smotherson.
I'd like to nominate for reappointment Carla Teeters to the Arts and Letters Commission.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McMahon. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Smotherson.
Yes, and lastly, I'd like to reappoint or nominate for reappointment Linda Jones to the Arts and Letters Commission.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We have no swearing in this evening. We now have our first section of citizen comments. For those of you who have joined us this evening, we're glad to have you. It's nice to have more people in attendance tonight than we normally have. If anyone would like to address council either on an agenda item or a non-agenda item, you need to fill out a sheet of paper that's over right by the door. If it's on an agenda item, you simply put the agenda item down and then bring the form up to the basket in front of the clerk. If it's on a non-agenda item, you simply say non-agenda and then again put it in the basket for the clerk, and then you'll be called upon. Each person, when they come to speak, will be given 5 minutes. We ask that you give your name and address for any public comments. The first person who is requested to speak this evening is Tom Sullivan.
Tom Sullivan, 751 Syracuse. I have several things to mention. There's still various streetlights out in the city. There's an overhead light out in the number 4 parking lot by Kingsland. In the same parking lot, there are 2 sidewalk lights still out on one of the walkways that go through the lot. A street light is not working on Vernon, just west of Kingsland. Wire for the light is spooled below it. This is left over from last summer's flooding. A street light is out on North Drive. A light is out on Cabanee between North Drive and Eastgate. A light is out on Clemens between Inner Drive and Eastgate. 2 street lights are out on Ferguson, north of Olive. Several street lights are out on Olive. A pedestrian or streetscape light is out on Olive, just east of Hanley. A street light is out on Midland Drive. Another light is out on Wellington, east of Midland Drive. It is surprising that so many street lights are out. These are just ones I've noticed when driving or walking. If someone really went looking, they could probably find 100 lights out in the city. Why is no one paying any attention? Lights out can also be a safety issue. There's still a wire hanging down in the alley behind 758 Kingsland. It appears to be a telephone wire. There's also a wire hanging down on Kingsland between Vernon and Olive to the west on the west side. Pedestrians have to duck under it or go around it. This was reported months ago. These are not the city's responsibility, but anytime utility wires are hanging down, it is something the city manager should look into. Also at the Kingsland Park at Chamberlain and Kingsland, the fence is broken down in parts. As I've said before, Kingsland Avenue is a mess from Del Mar to the city limits. It should be a showcase street, but it is not. In addition, there's a bench in Heman Park with a broken slat. It doesn't look as if the bench has been painted in at least 10 years. It's at the baseball diamond next to Midland. It would seem the city has quite a long to-do list for spring. Also, it will soon be the spring rainy season with the worst coming in the summer, and that means the potential for more flooding. As the Stormwater Commission has documented, there are blockages in River Des Peres, and no one seems to do anything about them. You can see one of the blockages just from a sidewalk on Kingsland, about 20 feet north of Etzel. Some very sizable branches are caught up in the bridge supports, and the blockage will get worse as the stream fills and brings more branches and debris to the blockage. The city manager thinks the big detention pond will be the solution to flooding problems. Not everyone agrees. At a recent Stormwater Commission meeting, it was said the city has ignored all the recommendations the commission has made for the last 2 years. That doesn't seem to be a helpful attitude to address a difficult problem that has gone on for more than 50 years. Thank you for listening to my comments.
The next request to speak is Dr. Monica Stewart. You need to hit the button at the bottom in the middle. And then if you could give your name and address.
Right there. Dr. Monica A. Stewart, 1066 Pennsylvania Avenue. Concerned about Centennial Commons. What's going on? Not in use. What's going on?
Doctor, thank you. There's really not an engagement back and forth. If
Oh.
you'd like to make comments or ask
I've never
questions, the
done
city
that.
staff can get back to you at a later time.
Thank you. Never done this before.
We're glad you're here. That concludes the citizen participation for this section of the agenda. I'm assuming there's probably not council comments at this section, but if someone does have, please let me know. Otherwise, we will move into the public hearings. You have before you the public hearing for redistricting, which is in your packet. I will open this hearing at 6:37. Madam Clerk, if we had any written comments regarding this matter,
None tonight.
and there's been no one that has signed up to speak. Hearing that no one has signed up to speak, so there are no written comments, and I will close this hearing at 6:37 p.m. We'll now have before us public hearing, the second public hearing, which is for zoning amendment Lot C Market at Olive. We'll open that at 6:37 p.m. Madam Clerk, were there any written comments?
There were none.
Or were there any requests to speak?
There are
Hearing
none.
no request to speak on this matter, this hearing will be closed at 6:38 p.m. You now have before you the consent agenda with one item on the public art project. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. McMahon, seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Rose.
Honorable Mayor and council members, before getting to item number L1, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our new Public Works Director, Darren Girdler, if you would stand. So that you can at least put a face and a name together. Looking forward to working with Mr. Girdler. He comes to us from a community out of Illinois. So very pleased to have him. If I can now have our Human Resources Director, Amy Williams, come to the podium. And Mayor, if you could join me in the front. We would like to take this opportunity to recognize our employees with our service awards.
Big crowd to do so. So we're excited to do this evening. I am without a lot of voice, so I'm going to let the directors and chiefs say a few words about their employees. And I believe we'll call up the fire department first, since we know they always have to run. So we will let them come up first. And we appreciate you all being here. There are several in the audience as supporters. We know the work that they do. We are very excited. We were going to have a holiday luncheon. We probably have as many here as we would have had at the luncheon. So we're excited to celebrate with you all. Start with 5 years.
Good evening. I wish you all knew how dedicated a staff you have on the fire and police side in this city. It's truly an honor to work here and it's a great group of people to work with, and we want to honor some of them tonight. Right now, we're going to go with the 5 years of service for Taylor Jordan and Matthew Pay. All right, we got one more from the department tonight, and this is for 10 years of service and also recently promoted to captain is Captain Jeff Giles. We do have several more that they just couldn't be in attendance tonight, so. Thank you.
We will go ahead into a very esteemed, maybe from the mayor too. All righty.
Since we're on the air, gives me great pleasure to thank and show our appreciation on behalf of the council and I know our community for the dedication of our city manager for his 5 years of service to I can't believe it's been 5 years. It was 5 years of service to University City. Gregory, we look forward to for many more years to come. Congratulations.
Yeah, Patrick Law from the library come up. He had several as well and had a few and then has had a very busy week. So we will get right to the library.
First up with 5 years of service, we would like to thank Linda Jackson. And it's been such a pleasure having you at the library. Thank you so much for joining us. And then with an unbelievable 30 years of service, we'd like to welcome up to the podium Larita Wright, storyteller extraordinaire.
And now we have one final award. Mr. Rose could probably speak volumes to this individual as well. It's one of my favorites. It is an award that people were lined up. I've only been here about a year. People were lined up on several occasions outside of my office, kind of pleading their case why they should be Employee of the Year and that they haven't received Employee of the Year. So it's one that a lot of people want and only one can get. So this is peer nominated and peer voted on. And I'm very happy to say that it is our very own in HR, She was working with Mr. Rose for the last 4 years, her first 4 years. And now I stole her and I apologize, but I thank you for her. But Miss Linda Schaefer, if you could come up and get your Employee of the Year award. Don't know how we surprised you. She does all of these awards. I didn't know where to find the resume paper. or anything. That is from.
You've got to stick around. I've got to embarrass you for a second.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have had the honor and really just a pleasure to be able to work for Linda for about 5 years. And I say that tongue in cheek somewhat, but honestly, she was the person that kept me straight for many years, and I certainly hated to see her move on, but I know that she's moving on to something bigger and better for her. Without question, Linda is perhaps one of the nicest persons I've ever met in my life. And even up under very stressful circumstances, not that citizens get stressful all the time, but I'm sure you understand. She carries herself with professionalism and such a demeanor that really focuses and centers on just trying to help you as a resident. And I could not be more proud of her. So thank you for the honor of being your boss for a few years. Thanks so much.
Get one picture before they take you out to dinner.
We've got to get a bigger podium. Honorable Mayor and council members, you asked that I provide you with a report on our flood recovery efforts. And so that's what this agenda item does. On July 26th, 2022, and then again on July 28th of 2022, University City and surrounding communities suffered historic flooding because of significant rainfalls within a short period of time and an infrastructure that was inadequate to accommodate the stormwater runoff. The flooding caused severe damage to properties such as the Fire Station 1 building and internal equipment, public safety vehicles and associated equipment, the Public Works building and yard, trash collection vehicles, Centennial Commons, the pool, the dog park, and our ball fields. A total of 55 vehicles were damaged because of the flood. We have estimated the total damage inflicted by the flood on our facilities and equipment to range between $12 million and $14 million. In addition to the flood damage to our property, more than 300 residential homes were damaged, and condemned because they were uninhabitable, and many others were flooded by stormwater runoff or backup. Because before the floodwaters began to recede, we started our recovery efforts by contacting SEMA and FEMA for assistance, documenting the disaster, activating our mutual aid agreements with surrounding communities, obtaining estimates for the cleanup of our facilities, replacing equipment, and filing insurance claims. On July 28th, 2022, a press release was distributed notifying residents of our extra bulky item collection, dumpster placement, and the waiving of right-of-way and building permit fees for owner-occupied housing for approximately 90 days. On August the 1st of 2022, we held multiple meetings with SEMA and FEMA representatives so that they could assess damage to our infrastructure and equipment and help us to prioritize for repairs. We were advised that emergency services would be the highest priority. And we were authorized to move forward with the repairs to Fire Station 1 and the purchase of any emergency operation equipment that was damaged. We inquired if the Public Works Yard could be considered an emergency facility since it included the repair of emergency vehicles, but was advised that it did not qualify. Facilities such as Centennial Commons, the pool, the parks, the ball fields were also considered to be non-emergency. Further, we were advised if we intended to seek reimbursement of our costs for the repair of the non-emergency facilities, we should not start to incur those costs until after we receive approval from SEMA/FEMA of our scopes of work. Otherwise, we would run the risk of not receiving reimbursements. It is my understanding that the prior approval to the scopes of work is required so SEMA and FEMA can confirm we are returning the facilities to how they were before the flood and not enhancing them. At the request of Governor Parson, President Biden approved a major declaration for Missouri on August the 9th of 2022. The declaration paved the way for federal funding to be made available to communities that suffered flood damage. So, in addition to our own flood recovery efforts, we began coordinating with FEMA to host information meetings with our residents and those from the surrounding communities, and working with police and fire to determine the most frequently flooded areas so we could prepare for developing a home buyout program. I would like to highlight just for a second the amount of trash and debris that we actually removed, just the city through our mutual aid agreement, 537 tons of trash and debris. And that was completed roughly within a month period. I want to recognize the employees that were involved in that flood recovery. That portion of it, they performed an outstanding job up under very difficult circumstances. The declaration made available funding to purchase some of the homes that reside in the floodplain. Due to SEMA's limited budget, we only received tentative approval for 12 homes on Wilson Avenue. Approximately 12 additional homes on or near Birch Street were placed on a waiting list. Tentative approval was also given to purchase 3 of the 4 buildings in Hackner Court at 100% of the cost. I'm told FEMA is reviewing all buyout applications currently, and final approval has not yet been given. Currently, we have spent roughly $4 million on flood recovery efforts, including the repair of Fire Station 1, the purchase of public safety vehicles, the purchase of 2 trash trucks. In each case, we were required to comply with our purchasing policies, which includes obtaining the necessary bids. Of the $4 million we have spent, we've received approximately $740,000 from insurance-related coverages. As of the drafting of this report, we did not yet receive approval of our scopes of work for non-emergency facilities. However, to expedite these projects, I have authorized advancing the bidding process so we can be ready when approval is received. And last week, I authorized the partial reopening of Centennial Commons after learning that the electrical system was sufficient to handle the load of the cardio area. The condemnation order was lifted for the cardio area on Thursday, February the 9th of 2023. And we notified the public that we would start the partial reopening today. Although we do not have all of the part-time staff needed to open for full operation, hours of operation, we do have full-time staffing available for the partial reopening. The partial reopening will provide our residents, especially our seniors, with the ability to use the facility. Finally, as I have indicated in the past, once we receive bids, I intend to place an item on your council agenda that would authorize the repair of the pool, Jack Buck Field, the dog park, and any electrical work required for Centennial Commons. Bid specifications are underway, and we should let the bids within the next couple of weeks. The purchase of the pool pumps is already underway as well. I understand deeply the inconvenience the closure of our non-emergency facilities place on our community. Please know that we are taking all the necessary steps to work with SEMA and FEMA to comply with their policies, expediting the bidding of our facility repair so we can open the facilities as soon as possible with the intention of not placing an undue financial burden on our taxpayers. My staff and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there questions of Mr. Rose from members of council? Ms. Klein?
First of all, I want to just highlight what amazing facilities we have in this community and how much they're loved. There's been so much feedback about Centennial Commons, the pool, and these different areas that we have to utilize, and we're very lucky to have them. And I understand that it's been quite a stress on people thinking that maybe these things won't be available, the pool, when the pool season opens, and Centennial Commons. So I just have a couple of questions to get some more specific details on these issues. In terms of the opening of the the partial opening of Centennial Commons, exactly what is included in that? Does that include the track above the gym or only the cardio area?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Klein, that includes the track above the gym. I consider that all cardio.
Okay.
So
the track and the area with the weightlifting.
that's correct. With the running machines, the weight area, as I understand it, is not included. Weightlifting.
There's a lower weightlifting area and then one that's up kind of by the running machines. Yeah. Yeah.
So I make sure I'm providing good information. If I could have the Director of Parks and Recreation come up to respond to that question. Mr. Dunkel.
Mayor Crowe, members of council, council member Klein. Yes, the cardio area is the exercise equipment right there as you walk past the front desk. The lower level was flooded. That area is still partially condemned. And so basically the cardio equipment and the track is open to the public at this point.
Okay, thank you. And then I also have a question about the pool. You mentioned that you're getting bids for some of the things that will not move forward until we get FEMA approval. And in terms of the pool, my understanding was that we're moving forward with the pool, whether or not we have approval so that we can open as soon as possible. Is that correct?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Klein, there are 4 areas that I will, not having seen the bids, but will very likely recommend that the mayor and council move forward with incurring the cost for, even taking the risk of not getting reimbursed. The pool is one. Any electrical work on Centennial Commons is the second item. The dog park is the third item, and Jack Buck Field is the fourth one.
Okay, so those are moving forward as best we can, as soon as we can get them done, they'll be done.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smotherson.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Mr. Rose, it's just, I've got a couple of questions here, and that is, and I'll continue with Ms. Klein's question in reference to the pool. When you say that you're moving forward, what kind of time frame is that? Is there a when? When do we understand? Is that going to be before July or before June, or to try to have that pool open?
Hello, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Smotherson. We are in the process of getting a bid for the electrical work that is needed on the pool. We had hoped to have that bid last Friday before the close of business. I'm told that we should have that information this week. So at that point, I'll be able to advise you as to what the time period is going to look like for the repairs. As I understand it, there may be a decision that you as a council may need to make regarding one cost could be more expensive because we're getting a shorter time to make the repairs. But we do not have the bid in yet. So I would rather talk about the pool more specifically once I see that bid.
Okay.
But all intentions are to open the pool for the summer. We are moving forward with ensuring that we have the staffing that's needed to open the pool. So at this point, unless I'm given a different direction, our intention is to do everything possible to open the pool for the summer.
Okay. Okay. My other question is, again, now back to Centennial Commons, you're stating that we're short-staffed, and I'm trying to understand why we're short-staffed, simply because on July 25th, the day before the flood, we had extended hours. So I'm not sure I understand why we are back in this situation, because we were in this situation during COVID. And not having the Centennial Commons and the gym open was because of that very reason. And here we are again, short-staffed, as you stated, and not able to have extended hours.
Mayor Pro Tem Smotherson, what we have are all of our full-time people that are still with us. If you recall, during COVID, we went through layoffs that included, we also laid off some of the full-time people that we knew eventually we would be bringing back. We didn't do that this time. Before, we didn't know how long COVID was going to last, how long the economy was going to be closed, how long our facilities were going to be closed, and we needed to save cash. And so the layoffs took place so that we could weather any financial downturn that happened as a result of COVID. We knew this time that it was simply a matter of making the necessary repairs. So the full-time staff were retained. The part-time staff simply weren't called in to work because we didn't have anything for them to do. At this stage, as I understand it, the Assistant Director over Recreation is reaching out to those part-time staff, as well as working with our Human Resources Director to advertise for part-time staffing if needed.
Okay, let me say one thing, and because it's obvious, it's an obvious statement or question that's going to come up to council members. And it's been brought to my attention also. Why 9 to 6? That's just, and I'm just going to be upfront. Those are not good hours, because most people, especially myself, I mean, again, work out early or work out later in the evening. There is no way. I mean, you're not going to have many people working out at all, if any, during that time frame. So I'm not sure why. I'm trying to understand why 9 to 6, because it's almost an embarrassing issue that's being brought up.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem Smotherson, we only learned that we were going to be able to open the facility on really Thursday of last week when the condemnation was listed. We had a general sense that we were going to be opening it Monday of last week after the electrician advised us that the system could accommodate the load. Our intention has been to do what we can immediately to get the facility open and people able to come to the facility. But we're going to look at the expansion of those hours as quickly as we can. We were just really pleasantly surprised that we would be able to do the partial opening, and rather than not open it at all until we were fully staffed and we could provide the extended hours, I authorized open it up now so that the residents can take advantage of it. But the intention all along was to look at the hours of operation and to expand those as quickly as possible.
Okay, and this is my last statement or question to you, but because it's something that just came up in reference to your statement about FEMA, SEMA, and waiting for them to review our scope of work. But what I find interesting is that you stated that FEMA is stating that we can't make improvements. All they want us to do is to put it back, to put things back to the way they were. Which I find strange, because I'm also a flood victim. In the letter from FEMA, and we've got funds, my wife and I received funds from FEMA. FEMA's actually telling us to do remittance so that we prevent the next flood, not to replace my couch or not to replace my table, but to prevent the next flood event so that we're not affected the same way. So I find it strange that they're not asking us to do that, to make improvements. And I really find that strange, but also, and then the last part of my question, so I won't have to come back again, is in reference to our baseball field. And this has to do with both the pool and our baseball field. This is coming, the spring is coming, summer is coming. So storms are coming. Our pool sits in a floodplain. Our pool has been closed by 2 events in 2008 and now 2022. We lost a ball field, and now our baseball team can't play on our ball field. What are we doing to secure the fact that, to make sure that our high school team can play in Heman Park? So what are we doing to ensure that we know now we have one field? Are we planning 2 fields just in case? Because again, what I'm saying is we have an opportunity now to move forward and not backwards. And I find it strange too that FEMA is asking us to just, maintain a status quo, which I really find strange, but I'll let you address all of that. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Smotherson, FEMA and SEMA will tell you today that you can make any repairs that you want to. But what they will also tell you is that don't seek reimbursement if we have not given you authorization for those scopes of work. You run the risk of not being able to get reimbursed. They will never tell you not to make the repairs that you desire. It really hinges on whether you are going to seek reimbursement. And the only way that they can confirm for themselves is that they must prove that scope of work. Now, we didn't create these policies. We wanted to go full steam ahead with repairs because we certainly understand the inconvenience that this creates. But also we have a understanding of trying to maintain a strong financial position, and in doing so, what those costs are going to be to make repairs to Centennial Commons, probably $1 million or more for all of the repairs. My recommendation to you early on was, let's hold off, let's get the scopes of work approved before proceeding with the repairs, so we can be assured that we would get reimbursed those costs. I don't know that it's strange. It could be, but it's the information that we have been given. In the air, with regards to remediation to ensure that the facilities don't flood in the future, certainly we as a city have the ability to do that if that becomes the priority of the mayor and council. But you understand that doing that could mean moving those facilities and the cost that you're going to incur for doing that. And you couple that with the fact that we still have a pension fund that is challenged, police and fire, with roughly $6-7 million deficit. We have a police facility that has recently come in more than 50% of what we had anticipated. So instead of 22 million, we're looking at 34 million or so. So it's really just a question of priorities. Could you move those facilities? You could, but that would mean that you're not going to be able to do something else. And I would recommend that it had not flooded for 50 years or more, our fire station, but it flooded this time. I'm not so sure that that you're in a financial position to do it all.
Mr. McMahon.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Rose, for the update and the information you're providing to everybody. I don't want to sound too gloomy, but I think you painted the picture well of kind of how we got here. But I think, and to kind of springboard off of what you just said, it's about priorities. And I think what we've learned in just this time, as people have weathered the issues that we faced after the flooding, that our recreation center and the recreation component of Parks and Recreation is a priority to a good number of members of our community. And if it's their priority, it really becomes our priority. And so what we're looking at is not only rebuilding a structure, but we are rebuilding a recreation component. We're really starting from the ground up because we have to get all the staff in place. We have to get the structure in place so that the residents will come back. We need to build the customer base because through COVID and this, we've probably lost members that have found new places to go and they're spending their money someplace else. We have to rebuild a product in essence that will draw people back. Not just the people that say, that's where I always go and I'm going to go because it's my municipal place I can walk on the track, but we really have to have that commitment. And so the way I view it is we need to, if that's our priority, if we are marking recreation in our city as a priority at that facility, because we probably can't move it, we need to know what we need and what your staff needs so that we can help you do that, so we can deliver on that. So that's just my view of it, because I think that's how far we are down on recreation. It's the whole program. And so in a way, if you're a glass half full kind of guy, this is an opportunity to build that back so that folks that say, well, we used to be able to do this at Centennial Commons, we can deliver on some of those things. And so that's a real big picture that we have to look at. So hope that's my comment. Have we looked into anything regarding fees and memberships as we are starting to reopen. I'm assuming some people's memberships have lapsed. They're not going to be wanting to pay for a full membership if we don't have a pool and we can only have cardio. Have any of that been analyzed and thought about?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember McMahon, we have not made any decisions regarding how do we transition from the existing, well, from their ability to use Richmond Heights and limiting them to the facilities here. I'm not so sure. I agree with you that charging the full price for a full operating Centennial Commons is not realistic, not practical. So we're going to need to identify what is a reasonable price that we can charge for very limited use of Centennial Commons. That was one answer. I also wanted to just highlight the fact that we are, with regards to mitigation, we're also pursuing, you as a council, the construction of a retention basin. Now, certainly that is not the solution to all of the flooding that occurs, but it is a part of the solution. Doing nothing is not a solution either. So I think what we are doing is taking steps, you as a council, to place an infrastructure in place that can accommodate the stormwater runoffs that we are beginning to see. You decided to take a leadership role in that, even though technically it's not the responsibility of the city. There is an organization that I believe does have responsibility for it, but because that organization had not responded in the way that we desired, I think you as a council decided to take a leadership role into putting that infrastructure in the ground to at least begin to mitigate some of the stormwater runoff.
Mr. Hales.
Thank you, Mayor Crowe. Steve, I really appreciate your comments both on priorities and particularly the last question about memberships and the importance of moving forward as these facilities come back online, of getting people into memberships and back using these facilities the way they did pre-COVID and beyond. You know, I was one of a number of us who sat in the second floor of the firehouse back in August with the governor and members of FEMA and SEMA. And things were still very raw, very bleak. And in the coming weeks, I remember the notifications that we got from you about the mounting losses. And it seemed like every few days there was, another $300,000-$400,000 million. So when we talk about priorities, and you mentioned a total loss of $12 to $14 million, and the choice of risking reimbursement versus rushing to achieve the priority of getting the facilities open. Those are two not very great choices. And I do agree. I think from a financial perspective for the taxpayer, that is something that personally I can say I couldn't risk that much taxpayer money. It pains me. I know it pains all of us that this process takes that long. And I just wanted to also recognize your staff and directors who are, dealing with FEMA on a weekly basis. And I appreciate the updates you provide me when I ask, and I'm sure all of us, as to how that's going. And it probably gets to be a little much with all of the, is there an update? Is there an update? But I know that you and all of your staff are working this as hard and as fast as they can. And I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
If I could just do a little bit of housekeeping here. I know that Dr. Stewart had asked about an update on Centennial Commons, so I'm hoping that someone will circle back with her after the update even that you've given, so that since we didn't engage in a conversation with Dr. Stewart, just making sure that someone does that. And then secondly, could you, I think for everyone here, help us just almost have a tutorial 101 on the application process with FEMA. Was it a one application and done, or was it an exchange back and forth of information over and over? And is everything in that needs to be in? Is there more that needs to go in? Because I would tend to think that if it's like most things, once you submit, normally there's a question that comes back and you need more information. And there's a question that comes back, you need more. So can you or Darren give us some update as to where we are in that process?
Honorable Mayor, from a submittal, we meet with, my staff meets with SEMA and FEMA pretty much on a weekly basis. And the reason for that meeting is so that they can provide the documentation that is needed by FEMA and SEMA regarding the expenses that we have already incurred. Some of that, for example, the flood or the trash and debris pickup, that information had to be provided. The repairs that we made to the fire station, that information, anything that we do on the pool or Centennial Commons, all of that has to be provided. So it's not one application that is submitted. It's multiple submittals that are given.
And as a follow-up, are there outstanding items that we need to be submitting to SEMA and FEMA? Are we up to date, or how's that process going?
Honorable Mayor, if I could have Finance Director Keith Cole, is he here? He can give you a update on exactly, where we are with the various submittals. Mr. Cole?
Honorable Mayor and Council, we have submitted with FEMA, I have submitted, it's broken out between like 7 and 8 projects. One's like Centennial Commons, the pool, that's one project. Another project is like the citywide debris removal. Another project is the park, citywide park debris, the citywide park project. Another project is just the vehicles. So there's like 7 or 8 total projects that's all been submitted to FEMA. And I meet with our FEMA rep on a weekly basis, and we've just been in dialogue back and forth about what documentation has been requested. So everything on our end, everything has been submitted that they've requested. So they're going through all the projects and doing their due diligence and working on their side.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, I would say that our submittals is not complete yet, because once we do these additional repairs, that documentation will be submitted as well for the pool, for the ball fields, for the dog park and such. So it will be an ongoing engagement that we have with SEMA and FEMA for a while.
Got it. Anything else of the city manager? Ms. Klein?
Yeah, I just have a couple more questions. And one kind of is a follow-up with this discussion. Understanding the financial aspects of this, and that the city's doing the best that they can. Is there, I know that, a lot of people have expressed to me their interest in seeing the gym repaired and finished. Can you give me an idea of how long we could put that off if FEMA doesn't approve funding? Or is there a point where maybe some more funds will be freed up if they don't approve that and we could move forward? Just kind of a timeline on that.
The gym is actually probably the more difficult one to respond to because of the cost associated with it. That's what makes that amount about $1 million. But I do agree with you that at some point, it's likely that I will recommend even moving forward with that one. But I am hopeful that long before that we'll receive approval for our scopes of work.
Okay, Thank you. And then the other question, it has to do with the, we're so grateful that Richmond Heights Center has extended our current members' use of their gym. I've heard that by March 1st, that will not be available to our residents anymore. Is that true? Okay.
Honorable Mayor and Councilmember Klein, we have a verbal agreement with Richmond Heights. It was a result, I believe, at the mayor's suggestion, it was suggested to him, as I recall, that we reach out to surrounding communities. So we did. Richmond Heights agreed to allow our members to use their facility, but it wasn't into perpetuity. And so we are getting asked the question, how long is this going to go on? And so, I think that because they're great neighbors, they would allow us to perhaps extend that out a little bit. But we really need to make every effort that we can to expand our hours and to make the repairs to our own facilities so that we can have our members using our own facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on this item? If not, thank you, Mr. Rosa. We
Thank
will
you.
move forward with the next item, which will be the second quarter financial report.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this next item is to receive an update on our second quarter financial report from Finance Director Keith Cole. Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Honorable Mayor, members of council. I'll be presenting the second quarter financial as of December 31st, 2022. The first is our general fund revenues, and our adjusted budget is 23.8 million. And the year-to-date actual is 11,016,000. And the actual as a percent of the adjusted budget is 46.3%. That represent $806,807 as an increase of compared to FY22. Some of the key points here, we had a roughly $224,000 increase in sales tax, or 8.3%. And this was, we had a little increase on the countywide pool tax. We had another increase in service charges of roughly 197,000. Or 44.9%. And this is mainly due to the ambulance services and weed and debris delinquents billing. Some of the decrease, we had decrease in court and municipal court and parking roughly 138,000 or 43.3%. And some of the other increases is just increase in property taxes of roughly 54,000 or 2.5%. Increase in gross receipt taxes of roughly 102,000 or 4.3%. Increase in governmental roughly 117,000. And we finished out our safety grant of 344,000. And so we finished that. So overall, the revenues as a percent of the budget is an increase of 5.1% when compared to the same quarter of FY22. And for the general fund expenditures, we've had adjusted budget of 31,641,000. Our year-to-date actual is 14,754,000. Percent of the budget's 46.6%. And we had an increase of 2.8 million compared to FY 22. And the increase is, as Mr. Rosa stated, we've roughly spent as of December 31st, we roughly spent 3.1 million in replacing flood-related equipment and vehicles. We had a decrease of expenditures in police of roughly 342,000. And overall, we had a budget increase by 2.2%. Then quickly on the next fund is the capital improvement sales tax. We had an adjusted budget of 2.5 million. The year to date actual is 887,974. This represents the adjusted budget of 35.5%. And we had a small decrease of 21,773. And this represents just, a small decrease in the sales tax revenue of 2.4%. The capital improvement sales tax expenditures, we've had our adjusted budget is roughly 2.2 million. Our year-to-date actual is 76,000. And the percent is 3.5% of the adjusted budget. And we've had a decrease of roughly 335,000 compared to FY 22. And mainly on this is the decrease is mainly, we haven't, let's see, we expense a lot of the street construction, mostly improvements, purchasing vehicles. We have not made those expenses thus far, and we expect those to be expensed in the third quarter. The next is the Park and Stormwater Sales Tax Fund. We have an adjusted budget of 1.3 million. Year-to-date actual is 478,000. And the percent of the budget is 36.2%. And we had a slight increase of 19,478. And we had a slight increase in sales tax of roughly 4.2%. Compared to the last quarter of FY 22. Park and Stormwater sales tax expenditures, the adjusted budget is 1.7 million. We had a year-to-date actual of 186,000. The percent of the budget is 10.9%. And we had a small decrease by 39,259. This decrease is due to slight decrease in the costs thus far for capital outlay projects. And again, we anticipate some of these capital outlay projects be kicked off in the third quarter. Public safety sales tax revenues, the adjusted budget is 2 million. Year-to-date actual is 751,000. Percent of the adjusted budgets, 37.6%. We had a slight increase of roughly 17,000. And our increase in the sales tax roughly increased 3.7%. And our public safety expenditures, the adjusted budget is 440,000. Year-to-date actual is 173,306. So adjusted budget's 39.4% of the budget. And compared to same quarter of FY 22, we had a decrease of roughly 270,000. And the decrease in expenditures as compared to FY 22 is mainly due to the initial cost of design engineering fees for the Annex Trinity renovation project. And I'll be open with any questions if you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Cole this evening? I don't believe so. Mr. Cole, thank you very much. We'll now move forward to unfinished business. We have bill number 9496. May we have the second reading?
Bill 9496, an ordinance amending section 100.180 of the University City Municipal Code relating to ward boundaries by repealing section 100.180 and enacting in lieu thereof a new section to be known as section 100.180 wards, thereby amending said section so as to change the boundaries of the city's 3 wards.
May we have the third reading?
Bill 9496, an ordinance amending section 100.180 of the University City Municipal Code relating to the ward boundaries by repealing section 100.180 and enacting in lieu thereof a new section to be known as section 100.180 wards, thereby amending said section so as to change the boundaries of the city's 3 wards.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Klein. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson,
Aye.
Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill is passed. May we have the second reading of bill number 9498?
Bill 9498, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the Municipal Code of the City of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of property known as Lot C and Common Ground 1 of Plat 4 of the Marketed Olive Development from PD Planned Development Commercial District and SR Single Family Residential District to PD Planned Development Commercial District PD-C.
Hate to do this to you, but can we have the third reading?
Bill 9498, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the Municipal Code of the City of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of property known as Lot C and Common Ground 1 of Plat 4 of the Marketed Olive Development from PD Planned Development Commercial District and SR Single Family Residential District to PD Planned Development Commercial District PD-C.
Is there a motion? Motion to approve. Motion made by Mr. McMahon, seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales,
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye, the bill is passed. We have the second reading of bill number 9499.
Bill 9499, an ordinance approving a final development plan for Lot B of the proposed Marketed Olive Development Plat 4.
We have the third reading.
Bill 9499, an ordinance approving a final development plan for Lot B of the proposed Marketed Olive Development Plat 4.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hales. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon.
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye, the bill has passed. Bill number 9500. May we have this second reading?
Bill 9500, an ordinance amending Schedule 3 of the Traffic Code to revise traffic regulation as provided herein.
We have the third reading.
Bill 9500, an ordinance amending Section 3 of the Traffic Code to revise traffic regulation as provided herein.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Hales. Oh, do you have a comment?
Honorable Mayor and council members, I did want to
I
note on the
apologize.
staff report, if it's appropriate to do it now, that it did not include that 75% of the block actually signed the petition. It indicated that 2/3 the residents, but that includes 75% of the block also signed the petition for this parking permit.
Thank you. There's a motion made by Mr. Hales. Was there a second? Seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Smotherson, Councilmember Clay,
Aye.
Councilmember Klein,
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon,
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Mayor Crowe.
Aye. The bill is passed. We'll now move to new business, resolution number 2023-2, the creation of an IDA, Industrial Development Authority. Please note that the mayor makes all appointments to the IDA, and one name that needs to be added to that is Chris Blumenhorst is also nominated as the 7th member. You have before you the resolution 2023-2. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. McMahon, seconded by Mr. Hales. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You have before you resolution number 2023-3, fiscal year budget amendment number 3. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Klein. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You have before you resolution number 2023-4, preliminary plan approval for the Market Olive Phase 4, Lot C and Common Ground 1. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Smotherson. Is there a second? I can't see. Is that Mr. Clay? Sorry, I just apologize because you're seconded by Mr. Clay. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we'll move forward to bill number 9501. Who would like to introduce? Mr. Hales, may we have the first reading of bill number 9501?
Bill 9501, an ordinance amending section 400.2700 of the Municipal Code of the City of University City, Missouri, relating to the zoning review procedure for conditional uses by amending subsection D.1 thereof relating to the city council action.
Thank you very much. For now, bill number 9502. Who would like to introduce? Ms. Klein. Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading? It's 9502. There was a typographical error, but it's 9502.
Bill 9502, an ordinance amending section 400.030, 400.510, 400.570, 400.620, 400.630, and 400.1495 of the Municipal Code of the City of University City, Missouri, relating to zoning so as to conform to Missouri Constitution, Article 14, provisions related to marijuana facilities as approved by voters on November 8th, 2022.
Thank you. Bill number 9503. Who would like to introduce? Mr. McMahon. Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading?
Bill 9502, an ordinance approving the issuance of tax increment and special district revenue bonds in connection with the Olive Boulevard Commercial Corridor and Residential Conservation Redevelopment Plan, pledging and assigning certain revenues for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on the bonds and authorizing certain other actions and documents in connection therewith.
We're halfway through the bills. Bill number 9504. Who would like to introduce? Mr. Smotherson. Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading?
Bill 9504, an ordinance approving a second amendment to redevelopment agreement and an amended and restated district project agreement in connection with the Olive Boulevard Commercial Corridor and Residential Conservation Redevelopment Plan.
Bill number 9505. Who would like to introduce? Mr. Smotherson. Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading?
Bill 9505, an ordinance approving a final development plan for Lot C and Common Ground 1 of the proposed marketed Olive Development Plat 4.
Bill number 9506. Who would like to introduce? Mr. McMahon. May we have the first reading, Madam Clerk?
Bill 9506, an ordinance amending section 400.070 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of property known as Lot 5 of Market at Olive, Plat 4, from IC Industrial Commercial District to PD Planned Development Commercial District, PD-C.
And Madam Clerk, you said Olive Plat 4 and it's Olive Plat 3 on mine. Is it
It should be 3, my
3?
apology.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Bill number 9507, who would like to introduce? Mr. Hales? May we have the first reading, Madam Clerk?
Bill 9507, an ordinance approving a final plat for a major subdivision of a tract of land to be known as Market at Olive, Plat 3.
Bill number 9508, who would like to introduce? Mr. Smotherson? Madam Clerk, may we have the first reading?
Bill 9508, an ordinance amending section 400.70 of the municipal code of the city of University City, Missouri, relating to the official zoning map by amending said map so as to change the classification of properties at 8637, 8638, and 8641 Mayflower Court from SR Single Family Residential District to PA Public Activity District.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. You earned your keep this evening and then some. We'll now move forward to council reports and business. Are there any reports from members of council? Mr. Clay?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Crowe. Did want to report two things related to my liaison duties. Unfortunately, the library, so the library, as you may know, is in a temporary space, but its permanent home that is being remodeled, unfortunately experienced a water main break, which created flooding in some of the newly renovated areas. So certainly we send out positive thoughts to our folks in the library who are working to get that addressed. There were some books lost, unfortunately. Also want to acknowledge that the Green Practice Committee is back up and running, and so they are meeting again and continuing with their work. They were on a brief hiatus, but now they are back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clay. Mr. Hales?
Thank you. I just, in looking at 2 pages in all of these bills, I can't even count how many bills there were. But I did want to point out the folks on the Plan Commission, our residents who volunteered to serve on that. 9 of these went through the Plan Commission, so that should let everybody know why their meetings average 3 hours every month. So thank you again to all of them for serving us and getting us to the point of these bills.
Thank you. The city attorney and city clerk have informed me that under resolution 2023-2, that is the resolution to create the Industrial Development Authority. We did approve the resolution, but the mayor needs to still nominate, and then you folks need to consent to Susan Armstrong, Dorothy Davis, Siri Moran, Cynthia Martin, Jim Noagraki, Jeff Dobslaw, and Chris Blumenhorst. I made the nomination. I assume there's a courtesy of a second from Mr. McMahon. Is there a discussion on the nominees to the Industrial Development Authority? Hearing none. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. I apologize for that error on my part. Madam Clerk, I don't believe I saw any other citizen comments come forward.
That is correct. There are none.
Are there any council comments to be made at this time? Hearing no council comments, is there a motion to go into closed session according to Missouri Revised Statute 610.021, legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between that public governmental body or its representatives or attorneys? Is there such a motion? Motion made by Mr. Hales. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Smotherson. Is there discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Klein.
Aye.
Councilmember McMahon.
Aye.
Councilmember Hales.
Aye.
Councilmember Smotherson. Mayor Crowe.
Aye. Thank you folks very much for joining us. We appreciate having you here.